everyone, it's Sevy, and ever since I made that build predictions video about Ayaka, I've been wanting to test in real game those weapon recommendations that I made. So those were Mistsplitter, Jade Cutter, Skyward Blade, and we also got a lot of comments about Summit Shaper, so we're including that too. We won't be using the Freedom Sworn or Aquila Favonia. And take note that these tests won't be super in-depth, but it is a quick comparison plus my initial thoughts and analysis on each of these weapons for Ayaka. The weapons aren't on equal grounds, and I'll show you later, and I would have leveled the weapons equally, but I don't have the resource to do so, so we'll just take that into consideration. So just a few things before we go into the test. I understand that in Genshin Impact, when you have a character and gameplay, you adjust accordingly your artifacts and your team depending on the weapon you put on the character. But in this video, we're doing a straightforward, more or less controlled test with the following parameters. First, I'm only using Diona and Zhongli with Ayaka. That means there's no resonance activated because you need 4 characters to activate it. I use Diona and Zhongli to get the shield and trigger the effects of the Summit Shaper, and I use them with every weapon. Second, the artifact set that I use is consistently a 2-piece Blizzard Strayer and a 2-piece Gladiator's Finale. I didn't use a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer since 1, I don't have the best artifacts, 2, we're running a control team that doesn't run on permafreeze, and 3, it's a bit hard to get a full set with good stats. So this Blizzard Strayer Glad hybrid is an all-around choice, but I know that most of you are running her with a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer. Third, some adjustments in artifacts were made to balance my crit stats depending on the weapon. Fourth, the same attack pattern was used throughout all tests. And fifth, our test subject was the Primordial Bishop, and I tested each weapon multiple runs, showing you one of each. Ayaka's levels are 221, and yet she slayed the Primordial Bishop easily, so like, what the f***, Ayaka? Getting into the test, we're starting with the Mistsplitter Reforged. Here are what Ayaka's stats look like with it. It's max level 90 out of 90, refinement 1. I wasn't supposed to level it up to 90 for the purposes of this test, but I got a little excited with the Mistsplitter, so here we are now. Just take that into consideration. The Mistsplitter gives the highest base attack, and its secondary stat is crit damage, so you can use a crit rate circlet or a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer. The thing about the Mistsplitter with Ayaka is that you won't have 100% uptime on all its stacks because Ayaka's burst cooldown is 20 seconds, which is much longer than the burst triggered stack of the weapon. So my first impression of the Mistsplitter is that, and I might be stating the obvious here, but it's the perfect weapon for Ayaka because its passive increases her elemental damage, and as you've seen from her infusion after she sprints, she's almost always dealing elemental damage, and the stacks that you get from the Mistsplitter even on R1 are quite significant, and she benefits from that on her normal attack, her skill, her burst, and it's just a lot of damage output overall. So on the Mistsplitter, the Geo Bishop was dead in 59 seconds. Next we have the Summit Shaper, which is on level 85, R1. These are Ayaka's stats on the Summit Shaper. The Summit Shaper does give Ayaka the highest attack stat, and that increases even more when you get all the sword stacks and you have a shield in effect. So even though you sacrifice your crit rate, crit damage a bit, the Summit Shaper does compensate in the added attack, and it did bring out some really big numbers in the test. But by comparison, the Summit Shaper run was longer and slower. So I tried doing multiple runs to verify this, but I ended up getting just around the same times. So this is possibly because of the lower crit rate, and I think most players would compensate that by using 4-piece Blizzard Strayer. I know a lot of people were saying in my build predictions video, don't sleep on Summit Shaper, but Summit Shaper in this case with this build doesn't impress a whole lot. So you will probably have to use permafreeze Blizzard Strayer to maximize Summit Shaper and really use it. So with the Summit Shaper, this run lasted 1 minute and 7 seconds. Next we have Ayaka on the Skyward Blade, which might be an unusual choice. This Skyward Blade is level 80 out of 80, it's refinement 3. This is what Ayaka's stats look like on this weapon. The good thing about Ayaka on the Skyward Blade is that I was able to use her burst more often. In this run with the Skyward Blade, I brought out her burst 3 times compared to the other weapons which only got it out twice. The damage from getting her burst up 1 more time actually compensated a lot for the lower attack numbers overall. Even though the Skyward Blade is slightly disadvantaged because of its level, its ascension is R3, but it does seem to be comparable to Summit Shaper if they were on equal level and refinement. I know that the Skyward Blade is an unusual choice for a main DPS. It's mostly used for battery characters, but Ayaka's burst damage is so high that the energy recharge from the Skyward Blade is advantageous. So Ayaka on the Skyward Blade needed 1 minute and 9 seconds to beat the Primordial Jade. Lastly, we have the Primordial Jade Cutter, which is level 85 and it's refinement 2. This is what Ayaka's stats look like with the Jade Cutter. So on the Jade Cutter, I switched out Ayaka's crit rate circlet for a crit damage 1 to balance the crit rate and crit damage. I know that these numbers don't look balanced, but that was the most balanced I could get given my artifacts. So of course, with the Jade Cutter, you don't have to worry about extra crit rate anymore, just build crit damage. Other than that, the Jade Cutter allows additional attack to scale off the character's HP, so I guess you won't be too mad that you get HP rolls. The Jade Cutter was faster than the Mistsplitter, and I think I felt that difference because I'm using a 2-piece Blizzard Strayer 2-piece Glad instead of a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer. If I were using a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer, I wouldn't have felt that much of a difference between the crit rate, since 4-piece Blizzard Strayer provides more crit rate, but since I'm using 2-piece Blizzard Strayer 2-piece Glad, that extra crit rate from the Jade Cutter makes a really big difference. The Jade Cutter still proves to be one of the best weapons in the game. There are no problems using it unless you run a 4-piece Blizzard Strayer permafreeze team, and then that extra crit rate becomes redundant. You will end up with over 100% crit rate most of the time, which you don't need. The Jade Cutter run ends at 56 seconds. So last few things, I didn't use a Freedom Sworn because although the passive can buff Ayaka and benefits the entire team, Ayaka applies Cryo too fast to really proc melt and take advantage of that secondary elemental mastery stat. I also didn't use an Aquila Favonia because I don't have one on this account, and I really don't think that the physical damage weapon is for Ayaka despite the high base attack of the weapon itself. So just remember with regards to this video and these tests, that it's not a completely optimized comparison per weapon because first of all, weapons are not on equal levels and refinements. Second of all, as Genshin players, we inherently change our team comps according to the weapon, our artifact luck gets taken into account, and our artifact build and what we're using on the character of course. So it's up to you ultimately how you will build accordingly to your weapon and your team comp. But I hope this test did help you form some opinions and analysis, or at least showed you some differences. And I commend everyone using 4-piece Blizzard Strayer permafreeze because it benefits the Mistsplitter way more than a Jade Cutter because of the optimized crit stats and all that. Personally, I would stick with the Mistsplitter for Ayaka because aside from its passive being completely made for her, it looks so good on her. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and a comment on what your current Ayaka build and weapon is, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you soon. Take care!